What if I told you that refinancing your annuity right now could potentially boost the return of that annuity by up to 50%, while pocketing thousands in bonus money that you never have to pay back? Today, we're uncovering the annuity refinancing strategy that almost no one is talking about, despite interest rates creating the perfect opportunity. Terry Wheeler, what does it mean to refinance an annuity?
Hi, Patrice. Very nice to talk to you again. Refinancing an annuity is very similar or analogous to back when we had in 2020 and 21, interest rates on homes absolutely plummeted. And we had the chance to refinance our homes at 2.5, 2.75 type rates, which we definitely took advantage of. Hopefully many of the listeners have also. But now rates have gone up, and that refinance opportunity for your home, that opportunity is gone. So we're back with rates in the 6 to 7% for mortgages. But what people don't realize is when rates go up, your old annuities that you bought in 2022 and prior, they were all priced out based on interest rates that paid almost nothing to these insurance companies. So they couldn't offer that much upside in your contracts. So I just refinanced my contract, and we did get very close to a 50% bump in performance. If we pay a fee, which you can pay a fee to juice your performance in some of these, we actually get more than that. So refinancing your annuities are perfect in a market where interest rates have risen, and it's given us a historic opportunity that we have not seen in more than a decade. So it's something we're working very hard with all of our fiduciary-based clients to do. And it's something that our listeners, if you haven't done that, we'd love to help them get that done, because it can put thousands of dollars in their pocket for retirement, if not tens of thousands or even more.
So what is it about the current economic environment that makes this work?
Well, think about what an insurance company is doing with your monies. So they have a portfolio of mainly fixed income investments that are generating income that they're able to use to give you the guarantees that you're getting. That income has risen substantially, so they have more of a budget, so to speak, to create more powerful products and more upside participation. So it's simply they have more income, they can share some of the wealth, but they don't do it for you automatically. So in these old contracts, you're stuck with a cap rate that might be 50% lower than what I just rolled into. And if you don't do anything, that's what you're going to be stuck with for the next 5, 10 years, however long you're in that contract. So we talk about savings, but as we get into this, you'll see the performance is the biggest thing, not the bonuses, not the extra cap rates. It's what those will translate into potentially over the coming years.
So what types of annuities can be refinanced or upgraded?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think fixed indexed annuities in particular are where you can see a direct correlation between what I have now versus what I can get. So it's very much a mathematical decision. You just have to look at how all the benefits are affected. And if it's a major increase like it was in our contract, it's a no-brainer. If you look at a fixed contract, so these are annuities that just are kind of like CDs, in that you went into it and you're getting 4% or 5% or 6% on your annuity. Those back in 2022 were paying next to nothing also. So you can flip those into probably a fixed index annuity that you can probably get pretty close to the same just based on the guarantees, depending on your rate. But you can increase your performance there. I would say 50% is not the limit. I think that the high end of that could be a multiple of your returns. So it just depends on how good the indexes are and how they perform going forward. That will determine that those are pretty easy to improve, even if you have a penalty that needs to be offset. So those short-term fixed annuities are potentially going to benefit massively, but the fixed index annuities are really a direct correlation. Now, other types of annuities, just to bring in full circle, is variable annuities. Variable annuities are different in that those have tremendous expenses. Those things can crash like a rock if the market crashes. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity that people maybe benefited greatly. And their performance isn't like what people experienced when they bought them in 2022, which a lot of them have had terrible performance. They've done well because the market has done well. But locking in those gains and switching to something that isn't going to lose money when the market is down is another refinance opportunity with a little different analysis, but it is every bit as potentially powerful.
Well, besides coming to you, how do I know if refinancing my annuity is the right thing for me?
Well, you have to either understand or work with somebody that understands how to analyze the before and after. So the numbers are not that difficult, meaning we could pull up a statement, and I have mine all marked up where I said, okay, this is the bonus. In my case, I got a 14% bonus that offset some penalties because I was still locked into this contract. And not only did it offset it, I got tens of thousands of dollars over and above that left over from the bonus. And my performance fees that I was paying to get higher returns were 1.5% a year. I eliminated that cost altogether. And then my upside went up tremendously, as I mentioned, by right around that 50%. But if I want to pay a much smaller performance fee than I was paying, I can even get that to be in excess of a 50%, which is, if I'm doing like to like, I would actually be benefiting on the upside far more than 50%. By the refinance, but I chose to get rid of the fee altogether.
All right. Well, talking about some of the financial considerations here, you talk about par rates and cap rates. What are they? What do they matter?
So each contract is a little different. Some function off of cap rates. Now, a cap basically says the most you're going to get of an index. So let's just say it was the S&P 500. Some of these old ones were giving 30, 40, 50, 60% of the S&P, and that's it. Now these cap rates are higher. So now maybe you're going into what we call a laddered strategy. And some of these you might be getting closer to 100, or some of these indexes that we call volatility indexes, we can get 200-300% of the upside. So if I get a 3% return on an index, but I'm getting a 300% par rate, then I'm getting a 9% return. If I have a cap rate of 100% and the index is 3, then I get 3. If it's 60%, then I get 1.8, which is 60% of that number. So the cap rates just define the cap based on the index you're on. The par rate says what multiple of that index do you get. Generally, we like the par rates better, but cap rates can be good if it's a high enough cap. But too few of them offer teaser rates, and then in the next years, they're really bad. So you got to work with companies that have a history of consistency, and that's the only companies that we work with. So there is garbage out there. You got to make sure you're with the right product, the right company. And a lot of people wake up 4 or 5 years into their contract and see almost no returns. And they realize, hey, not all annuities really are created equal. They should have done something different, unfortunately. So this is an opportunity. If you made that mistake, we can upgrade and you can profit from it at the same time.
And you mentioned bonuses. Bonuses of up to 15% are available? Come on, there's got to be a catch here.
Yeah, it's even higher, and there are some that have, well, they all have a catch. So the one I did, I'll explain, is a 14% bonus that you do not have to pay back. There is no expense to it, but you do have to stay there. So if you leave early, they're going to take back a prorated portion of that. So they're giving it to you up front. So if my 14% doubles over the next 10 years, that's 28% that added to my performance. But if I leave in year 5, they're going to take back a prorated portion of that. So they might take back 7 or 8% of that 14% bonus if I were to just walk away early. And they're going to do that in the form of a penalty. And that penalty takes back some of the bonus. No, that's one approach. Let me hit on one other.
Okay, go ahead.
Some of our clients that they have Social Security and that's it. So their pensions are gone. They have a retirement account. But the old days of having 3 out of every 4 people having a pension have long since passed us by. And now it's about 1 in 16 people have a pension. So one of the benefits you can do in these is create a private pension that is better than the old school pensions. And what I mean by that is we can get, say, a 22% bonus to a pension product. But that product, you are paying a little bit of a fee, and they're going to take about 14.5% back over the next 10 years. So you're getting a true 7.5% bonus, but you're also getting the entire 22% that if this thing does even moderately good, you get the growth of that. So even though they're going to take back some in that case, it can be really good. And then at the same time, some of these products will give you 120, 130% credit toward the pension side of that contract. So if I make a 5% return and I'm getting 130% credit, I'm getting 6.5% actually on my pension. So as long as I take it as a pension, it can be phenomenal. Now, this podcast isn't all about pensions, which we can go in a lot of depth about. But with the private pensions, there are products now that can guarantee you an 8.5% minimum growth rate for up to 12 years while you're in that sprint to retirement, so that then you turn that into a pension and your performance is bond-like or better. And that's just based on the guarantee and where bonds are today. So yes, there are catches with some of these bonuses. So they have to be analyzed, but there are some that are just pure bonuses. As long as you stay there and stay invested, you don't even have to pay a balance. It's just a pure bonus, and it can help offset any penalty you might incur, which is what happened with me.
All right. So you refinance, but is refinancing considered surrendering your policy? Will you be hit with charges?
Yeah, so a refinance is a surrender of your product and upgrading to a better product. That if you're like me, I used a product that, yes, I had a surrender charge, but not only did my bonus that I don't have to pay back completely offset it, I picked up, I think the number was 40 some odd $1,000 on my contract. So it's a big number. Like you might have 6, 7, 8% left. So this bonus is almost like profit sharing, because you're not paying it back. It's coming from the insurance company's profits, but it allows them to win a contract because they have a much better product. But a lot of people aren't going to move if they have to take a penalty. So this gives them some of that so they can move and they don't have to worry about their penalty if performance-wise it's going to be a big upgrade. And the big upgrades, if you're 2022 or below, it almost assuredly exists because interest rates were just so low back then, no company could afford to offer what's being offered today.
All right, then, I mean, the basic question is, well, how do I figure out if refinancing is worth any potential benefits?
Sure. So I can tell you our process. So what we do is we collect a statement from you. If it doesn't give us enough information, which most of them do, then we'll look at the actual contract. We will analyze your current contract. First, we will grade it. And what do I mean by that is we'll look at, is this a good contract even in 2022? Or is it really one of what I refer to as a garbage annuity, where you're looking at maybe a 4 to 6% return at best? So we'll grade that, and then we'll compare it to what we have today. And can we financially upgrade your position purely from a dollars in the contract basis? Meaning, let's say you had 300,000 in your contract, and we get that up to 320, 330, 340 right out of the gate. And then do we get more performance? So a higher cap or higher par rates? So those are all pretty much yeses if you're in 2022. Like, it's very rare you can't upgrade and get a benefit as long as you go into the right products. But we do have to analyze it on a case-by-case basis.
Well, let's move on to taxes then. Heck, it is tax season, right? Let's keep it there. So what are any tax implications of refinancing an annuity?
Yeah, so the beautiful thing about this is we have provisions in the tax code called the 1035 tax-free exchange. So if this is after-tax money, meaning not in your IRA or retirement account, you can do a tax-free exchange from one contract to another, and there is no tax ramifications. But you have to go through this process where the money never touches your hands. It goes from one company to another. Now, if you're in an IRA or a SEP IRA or simple or solo 401k or something like that, we can just transfer and there's no issue at all because you're already in a tax-deferred environment. So taxes are a complete non-issue as long as you do it right. You're not going to incur any taxes.
All right, talk a little bit more about that 1035.
Yeah, now one other thing with the 1035 that we look at, we are kind of income specialists where our focus is retirees and people that are in the sprint to retirement. One thing people don't realize is your tax planning can increase your returns dramatically. So one strategy we'll sometimes do is we'll take that tax-free 1035 exchange. We'll send some of it to a contract that's going to be for the future. We're going to let that thing run and grow. And then we'll send some of it to a contract that we plan on supplementing our income now. But by splitting it up and then taking the money out, we'll be able to get some of the money coming to us. Some of our paycheck will be tax-free return of principal, and then some of it will be gains. So there are dotting the I, crossing the T methods with these. When you do tax planning, we can increase a person's return dramatically, especially if they've been in these things for years and they're just looking at upgrading. but they actually need income also. So that can be worked into the equation, but it needs to be designed based on each client's individual situation.
Are there situations where a 1035 exchange would not be tax-free?
If you do it right, a 1035 exchange is always going to be tax-free from an annuity to an annuity, or from a life insurance to an annuity, but you can't go from annuity to life insurance. What we're talking about now with this refinance, we're really not involving life insurance for the most part, but there are times that you don't want to do a 1035 exchange. So let's say you're in something that has no penalty, but it just has done terrible performance. You might have a opportunity to take some out of the annuity world altogether by just doing a withdrawal also. It's going to be very low or no tax environment. And maybe you don't keep it all in the annuity world, because we do find that even though annuities are a great and powerful tool for a portfolio, some advisors tend to make that square peg fit in a round hole and they put your entire portfolio in there. And in our view, that's just flat out irresponsible. So that could be an opportunity to diversify. Now, in that situation, it's a hybrid, I guess, of an annuity refinance, because you can definitely upgrade. But at the same time, you might want to do some things that we're taking it out of the annuity world altogether. And that's definitely something we look at in each case, because we want a nice balanced portfolio. This is a nice portion of the portfolio, but it should not be the entire portfolio.
You've touched on some of this already, but what would be the process if I wanted to refinance?
So have the statement analyzed. So the most recent statement, we need to look at not only your current cap or par rates, we need to look at any expenses in the contract. We need to look at any penalties that might apply. We need to look at, do you have a death benefit or a living benefit that is affected, and will we be able to increase or benefit you with the change? Because there are times that maybe you've had it for so many years, the living benefit is so high, even though we can upgrade performance dramatically, it doesn't make sense to change it. So getting that statement gives us most of what we need, and we can pretty well do the analysis. And then, of course, interviewing each of these clients to make sure we know their situation, what stage they are in life. Are they in the sprint to retirement? Are they retired and living off this? So we need to get to know them and get to know their goals. And then we want to factor that in the right product for each client. Because the right product that I did may be perfect for you, Patrice, but it may also not fit your goals at all, and we need to do something altogether different. So we want to make sure that we're building it for this particular client and maximizing their unique goals.
How long does the process usually take?
If I have a statement, I could sit here and probably analyze it in 10 minutes for you. Getting to know you. So some people you can get to know very quickly. Other people you got to have, spend some time with and get to know their goals, because they're a little more guarded with their information. But we like to get to know really their whole picture. We like to know what, is their goal to die when they spent their last dollar, or are they trying to optimize what's going to the kids? Because multi-generational tax planning can be very powerful. So really getting an idea of what makes our clients tick. Are they trying to travel the world, die with their last dollar when their last dollar is spent? Have they looked at kind of the go-go years of retirement, compared those needs to what they're going to need kind of in what I refer to as the slow go, dealing with long-term care and other things? These things can benefit you if you need long-term care protection. So you do have to spend some time and get to know each client. It's not just look at a statement and flip it into something else. You can do that and benefit somebody, but you're missing the boat on other opportunities that you might be able to obtain if you spend some time and let us get to know you, then we can do a better job for you.
And Terry, is there a best time to do something like this? An ideal time?
So if we have a rearview mirror, I can tell you exactly the best time.
Yes.
Now, the challenge is we know today is great because rates have shot up so much. If rates start to go down, you're going to see the benefits drop. So the current administration is very much in the mindset that they want to see the economic environment change to a degree that they can lower rates. Now, will they be successful, or will rates go up more? It's hard to tell. So one way to hedge against that is you could do part now, and then you're risking that things may get worse, but they could also get a little bit better. But we know that now is a particularly good time. And right now there's various companies that offer extra incentive. We have some for the next 45 days or so that we can pick up anywhere from an extra 2 to 7% that when the product goes back to where it originally was, it's still great, but that bonus is gone. So for instance, one of the pensions is giving 22% right now. Their normal product just gives 15, but they're profiting a lot right now with rates going up. All of a sudden, these insurance companies are earning a lot more in these fixed income investments that they hold. So they can share the wealth, so to speak, but they're doing it to get your business because they, of course, make a profit margin on each contract. So they'd rather you be with them than with another company.
All right, and you talked about death benefits and living benefit riders. What happens to those?
So the death benefit riders and living benefit riders have to go into the analysis because they're gone if you move from one contract to another. But that doesn't mean you can't move to a contract that has a better living benefit or a better death benefit. But that is part of the analysis. We have to look at the purpose of that contract. We have some clients that went into something with the idea of a living benefit, but they don't even need it anymore. So then we can get rid of all that expense and increase performance even more. So we have strategies to deal with that, and we don't move it if you're not benefiting. It's as simple as that.
Suppose I only want to refinance part of an annuity. Can I do that?
Yes. Yeah, you absolutely can. And that is sometimes where we want to take a contract and use some of it to give us long-term care benefits later, some of it for private pension, or we just want pure bond-like performance where we hopefully beat the bond market by as much as possible. So historically, the numbers are great. That doesn't matter. It's what's going to happen the next 10 years. So we spend a lot of time on looking at the indexes that we think are going to do very well in the future. And if we are successful at that, then we should do far better than bonds is the goal. And we have a lot of clients that we just want pure performance. We don't need the bells and whistles. So why pay for them? Let's strip out all that cost and increase our performance.
Right. And how much of a role does age play in any kind of decision like this?
So it plays a role, one, in that age tends to correlate with where you are in life, meaning are you in the sprint to retirement? Now, 55-year-old is typically in the sprint to retirement, but some are actually retired. So it depends on you individually, not just your age. And then you'll have a 65-year-old or even a 75 or 80-year-old that is still in the active go-go years. And then you'll have maybe a 65, 70-year-old that really doesn't do hardly anything, and they're just trying to maximize it for their kids. So age matters, but it's not the driving force. It's more you individually, where you are in your life. Now, the one exception to that is different benefits and bells and whistles do have age limits. So there are some contracts that you can only go into up to a certain age. But most of those are well into your late 70s or mid 80s even. So it just depends on what you're trying to do.
All right. Then the big question is, do I come to you for help?
Well, we hope we do. I mean, the idea is you want to work with somebody that's a good fit. But if we are a good fit or you want to test us out, then go through this. We'll do the analysis for you. We'll show you what we think you can do and how you can improve things. And we'd be happy to do that. And of course, you can reach us right through our website, which is www.weariaadvisors.com. And then we are setting up one just for this purpose where you can go to annuityrefinance.com. That will send you to us also, and you can enter some information and we can take care of you there. Just make sure you put WE Annuity Refinance because Annuity Refinance was already gone and I don't know who that goes to.
Gotcha there.
And then, of course, you can just call us at the office, and Chris is our client services coordinator. She could just set up a Zoom phone call or live appointment at 916-325-0130. And we'd love to talk to you and see if we can assist you.
All right. Thank you so much, Terry. So much information here. And if you have questions about today's topic, annuity refinancing, don't be shy. Get in touch with Terry and his people. And follow this podcast for more insightful topics, and of course, share it with others. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to We Money Talk with Terry Wheeler. Be sure to click the follow button to be notified as new episodes become available. Information presented is for educational purposes only. No listener should assume that any discussions or information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized advice from We Alliance Wealth Advisors, Inc. or from any other investment professional, and is not intended as an offer of solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. We Alliance Wealth Advisors, Inc. is not a law firm or accounting firm, and no portion of this podcast should be interpreted as legal, accounting, or tax advice. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not appropriate for every individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from qualified tax, legal, or investment advisors to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation.